Welcome back to Roadies Roam the World, and thanks for joining us on our Alaska adventure. Our first stop after arriving in Alaska was Talkeetna. We thought we would easily find a spot to boondock for the evening, but not so. We ended up pulling into a parking lot of a park on the Talkeetna Spur, where we spent the night. The next morning, we got up and ate breakfast, and we were off to Mahay's Jetboat adventures for our 9:30 a.m. ride up the Susitna River into Devil's Canyon. This is where we saw level 5 rapids. Come along on our boat ride and learn a little bit about Talkeetna, Alaska. Talkeetna was established in 1916 when the area was chosen to be the regional headquarters for the Alaska Railroad. Fun fact about the Alaska Railroad: Alaska residents can flag down the train anywhere along the railroad to catch a ride into the next town, or wherever they might be heading. You may also be familiar with Talkeetna as the launching point for Denali Base Camp. Back to the reason we were in Talkeetna. We have a trip booked with Mahay's Jetboat Adventures. This full-day trip includes a jetboat ride up the Susitna River into Devil's Canyon, where we stopped just below some level 5 rapids. And rapids they were. We were there in the fall, which meant lots of rain and major whitewater. Let's tune into Captain Israel to hear what he has to say about the rapids.
A major whitewater today, folks. At this time, you're more than welcome to take turns, come up front, get a picture, and you can also go out to the back deck and get a photo as well. Just please do not go out onto the bow.
At this time, we were invited to come up to the front of the boat to take pictures of the rapids. Listen closely as Captain Israel holds the jetboat in place. Powerful, right? It takes just under 4 hours to get upriver, and along the way, Captain Israel shares information about the area, including his own upbringing. He shared where his parents' original homestead was, outside of Talkeetna, inaccessible by automobile. In fact, much of what we saw going upriver and back down was untamed wilderness, and we even spotted a black bear fishing on the bank of the river on our way back. After allowing everyone to get their photos of the rapids, it was time to head back downriver, and while we do, more fun facts about Talkeetna and Denali. Talkeetna is a great place to spy the peak of Mount Denali on a clear day, which we did not have, by the way. This year, in 2023, there was a new climbing record. Jack Kunzel climbed from base camp to the summit of Denali and back down in 10 hours and 14 minutes. And Jack didn't just beat the previous record, he killed it. Carl Egloff, who previously held the record, did this ascent and descent in 11 hours and 44 minutes in 2019. Both climbers used a combination of skiing and skinning, which is climbing with skis, to accomplish this incredible feat. Once Captain Israel turns the boat around, we speed downriver through the rapids until we are back out of the canyon. canyon and into some calmer waters, Captain Israel decides he wants to have a little fun.
One last time, folks, what do y'all think of Devil's Canyon? And I tell you what, if you were in a boat of this size and this much power, there's no way you would do what we just did back there. A very unique experience. And I tell you what, I've been doing this a long time. I've been making this run for 15 years. I never get tired of it. I love it every time. And every time I go up there, I feel like I turn into a little kid, and everybody else turns into a little kid with me. It's pretty awesome.
Before returning to the boat dock, we stopped for an hour to hike to an Indigenous camp and a trapper's cabin. Our naturalist, Holly, had a host of information about the land, the wildlife, and the people who lived in these natural elements. Let's listen in to see what she has to say.
A big green leaf and it's not started to die out. The stalk is what I want you to be aware of. It has an oil film on it. If you get that oil on your skin, it's going to blister your skin pretty bad. It intensifies if the sun's out, but I'm going to wait for everybody to make sure they're together. We do like to stay together as a group. We do share this trail with all the wild creatures that call this place home. We do see bear activity. We do see moose activity. As Israel said, this is a wild place. We can't manage the animals that come through our trail system. Very uncommon for us to see animals out here, but we have. If we were to see a moose, which is usually more common than not, we can't really scare a moose off, especially if it's a cow with a calf. Best thing that we can do is just respect her space and be really quiet to not provoke her and just go the opposite direction. Okay? Bear, and I have been seeing lots of black bears in this area. I followed one across the river 2 days ago that landed just south of here. So lots of black bears in the area. They're usually young, hungry, dumb black bears. And I promise you, they are more scared of us than we are of it. But they need to know that we're here. The best defense we can have against bears in the forest is to make our presence known, talking, conversing. If anybody starts doing hoops and hollers down the trail, I will quickly tell you to shut up. But just converse. That's all you got to do. But if a black bear does come out on the trail, the best thing we can do collectively as a group is just to make noise and wave our hands. And unless one of you strong, strapping young men is offering yourself up as tribute.
Luckily, no one had to offer themselves up as we didn't see any bears on the trail. Don't worry though, there's a lot more wildlife ahead. Wink, wink.
Got a couple different stops I like to make just when we get a chance to talk about a little bit of the vegetation. So Devil's Club, you heard me mention it in the beginning. I know I probably rambled off quite a few plants and you guys are all like, what is she talking about? This is Devil's Club. Devil's Club is something else, another plant you don't want to get caught into in the forest. And one of the main reasons why is all the little stickers, the thorns on it. Mm-hmm. So it's got lots of thorns on the stalk. It even has thorns on the underside of the leaf. And a lot of the berries are gone on this one. You're going to see more as we go down. A lot of them have a lot more of their berries still on them. These berries are toxic to us. So don't eat these berries. Now, you'll see bears eat them. So lesson here is just because you see bears eat something doesn't mean you should eat it. It helps to kill some of the parasites in their gut. But this is a power plant. It's in the ginseng family. It has a lot of medicinal purposes. One of the main things that folks around here like to do is dig up the roots. And they grind them up, turn them into salves and lotions. You can find some in some of our little shops in town, little areas in town that have them. And it's Devil's Club salve or Devil's Club lotion. I think they're even making lip balm now out of it. Devil's Club. Big no-no on the berries. Fiddlehead ferns. What's your favorite way to have fiddleheads? We haven't had them yet. Oh! You haven't had any yet? All right, well, Fiddlehead ferns. These are ostrich ferns, what you see behind you, commonly called fiddlehead ferns. The reason we call them fiddlehead ferns is when they first emerge from the ground, after the last little bit of snow melts away, they're very tightly coiled up. Yep. Everybody calls them fiddlehead ferns. Me personally, I like to call them little green snails because that's what they look like. And we harvest them. As soon as we see them kind of pop out of the ground, that's when you want to harvest them. So our harvest season is very short because these plants grow at a very rapid rate. They fully mature within about 6 to 8 weeks, getting up to about 9 feet tall. Now, everything on our riverbanks tend to be a little more lush, a little more vibrant, grow a little bit bigger because of all the extra nutrients that we get in from the salmon. So these are all fully mature. You don't want to taste these now. And if you notice out there, it looks like something's been laying down on them. They haven't. They get so big and so tall, they start to fall over on each other and break. Like these have. And that's usually how we know our summer's coming to the end, because the fiddles have fallen. The Indian River was named Indian River. William Dickey was up there doing some exploring. They came across a Dena'ina encampment right there at the mouth of that river, which is why it got its name, Indian River. So being that river gets all 5 species of salmon, it's the perfect spot to put a Dena'ina fish camp. Now, they would spend their entire summer up there fishing. So after the rivers break up and the salmon start running, that's where they would set up their camp. They would actually create a funnel at the mouth of that tributary. So when you come off the Susitna River onto the Indian River, that's where the funnel would start. The funnel ends where your boys and men will be waiting for the fish to come up through their funnel. They've got nets and they've got baskets. Bring it back to the encampment, and then as a tribe, they're going to process these fish to get them ready to smoke. So they're going to cut the heads off, they're going to gut them, and then they slice them in a very specific way. They slice them from belly to tail. They leave the tail attached so they can hang them, and they're going to hang them on a drying rack. It's ground cache. So if you'll notice the sticks in there, they're suspended up off the ground because you want to encourage airflow. So you're lining the pit with sticks, and then you're going to line on top of the sticks a layer of fish, and then another layer of sticks, alternating back and forth, ensuring that meat is not stacked on top of each other so that you've got constant airflow through there. When they're here in the summer, they're also trapping beavers. Behind you is a very primitive beaver trap, and that's called a deadfall. It's extremely warm. It's one of the warmest pelts in the world. So that animal is valuable to the Dena'ina natives. Now, at the end of the summer, before the rivers froze over, they're going to pack everything up. They're going to take their canoes south. They're going to winter over in some of the more coastal areas of Alaska that's a little less harsh. That's kind of the same place as all of our bald eagle goes, because the water stays open down there. And so they would hunt and trap through the fall and winter months. And then repeat that process every spring. They were nomadic people. They were always moving.
Wasn't Holly great? I loved her. Let me show you around this trapper's camp before we head back to the boat. Trappers would often set bear traps around their camp to keep the bears away. As you can imagine, the trapper's cabin would smell pretty yummy for a bear coming out of hibernation, and the last thing the trapper wanted was a bear in his camp. Trappers in this area of Alaska would trap everything from muskrats to wolves. There has been trapping in Alaska for as long as anyone can remember. As soon as the Russians arrived in Alaska in the mid-1700s, fur trade became very popular between Russian fur traders and Native Alaskans. Trapping continues to be an important part of Alaska's economy, particularly in rural communities. Trappers rely on this income to make it through the winter months, and they don't always sell what they trap. They and their families use the furs to keep them warm in the cold winters, and they use the meat as sustenance to survive. When it comes to wilderness, Alaska is no joke. I don't know if you noticed, but our naturalist Holly carried a loaded shotgun while we were on our hike. I have to say, that's a first for me, and it made me appreciate the wildlife in Alaska is really wild. The Trappers Camp was our last stop on our hike, and we went back to the boat to make our way back to town. Back in town, we did some souvenir shopping, and then we had to get back on the road to make it to our next stop by a decent time. We were back on the road and heading north to Denali National Park for a 3-night stay.